Welcome to Focus Washington. I'm Chuck Conconi. My guest today is Bob Cusack, who is the managing editor of the Hill newspaper. Bob, thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, let's see, you've reported on Washington policy and politics for over 15 years. Have you noticed anything particularly different about the way people are acting on the Hill?
Well, I think it's definitely more partisan than it used to be. You see that in the Senate right now, and that's why they're talking about filibuster reform, lowering the threshold for a filibuster. It's so intense right now. You had the midterm elections. President Obama promised change. The left is very frustrated with President Obama. The right certainly is not enamored with him, and that's why Democrats are worried going into November.
Did they really get much accomplished this session before the recess?
I think overall, President Obama basically did what he said he was. He's going to get health care reform. He was going to move the stimulus, but the unemployment rate has really been a drag. They predicted that the stimulus would cap unemployment at around 8.5%. Now we're at 9.5%. So it's not been a do-nothing Congress. They've done a lot. It's just a matter of whether you agree with this Congress or not. And certainly polling is showing a lot of independent voters who supported Obama do not support what this Congress has done.
Well, why isn't he getting credit in the way that he should? It sounds like he should get credit from what you've said.
Sure. Well, the White House is very frustrated. Is that, okay, we had to make some deals. We needed the votes. We couldn't do a public option in health care reform. We didn't have the votes for climate change. We'll do immigration maybe in the next Congress, maybe not. But certainly a lot of what they said that they would do, they've done. They did credit card reform. They did Wall Street reform. But there is some frustration in the White House among liberals, the liberal circles who keep attacking them. They say, listen, you know, if you do not support us going into this election, we're going to be working with a Republican Congress, and it's going to be much worse for you.
Well, that's the other place now, this election coming up. And as you know, they'll be back in a couple of weeks from holiday. And then between now and November, are they really going to do anything except worry about how they're going to run?
No, I don't think they're going to do anything substantive. Joe Biden, the vice president, said the heavy lifting is over. So they may do some appropriations work. There's talk of a U.S.-Russia arms treaty that they may or may not even have the votes for that. But then once they get back to Washington, I think there's going to be a rush to get back to their districts, especially the Democrats, because they're nervous they're going to lose their seats.
Well, anything in tax legislation going to come out of this?
Tax is going to be a big issue in the fall, though I don't think they're going to get it done in September. I think that they don't want to be increasing taxes, and that's what the White House said, okay, middle class, anybody who's making less than $250,000 if you're married, we're not going to raise your taxes. But for the wealthy, we are not going to extend the Bush tax cuts. But there are some Democrats in the Senate, including Ken Conrad from North Dakota, the Budget Committee chairman, who says we really shouldn't be raising taxes in this economy. So I think the debate will happen in September, but I think it could carry over into the lame duck. They have to act, though, before the end of the year.
Well, we've seen all the predictions about what this election in November is going to be like. The easy prediction, I guess people are saying that the Democrats are going to lose the House. The Senate is a little more questionable. Charlie Cook, however, who predicts all these so accurately, seems to think that both Democrats are going to lose both. What do you think?
I think it's going to be very difficult for Republicans to win the Senate. They're going to have to basically win every close race. And usually when it comes down to wave elections is that if they don't split, one party dominates. We saw that in 2006 and we saw that in 2008. I think Democrats are going to retain the Senate. I think the House is much more in play. And regardless of who wins, right now I would say Democrats still will hold, but barely they'll hold. And then it becomes, okay, will the House be run by Speaker Nancy Pelosi or the people in the middle? So even if it's Speaker Boehner or Speaker Pelosi, you're going to see margins are so close in the House, it could be fascinating to see.
Well, is there anybody left in the middle is the question that crosses my mind.
Now, that's true. You have the right so energized, and then you have the left a bit dispirited, and then what you could end up with is a Congress in the middle. You have a couple people here, Mike Castle, who will probably win his Senate race in Delaware, Mark Kirk, who's running for Obama's old seat in Illinois. He's a moderate. But overall, we've seen a lot of moderates basically lose in primaries.
Well, the moderates have lost over the past several years. I mean, it has become such a right and left government now, it's hard to imagine how anything will be accomplished. One of the things is this Tea Party movement. Has that caused any fear, you think?
I think it's the one thing that Democrats have, in essence, going for them, because Obama's agenda has not been popular, and I've talked to some people at the grassroots level, and they say if you talk to Democrats and try to get them off their couch, try to get them to knock on doors, healthcare reform and Wall Street reform, complicated bills, they don't really fire people up. But if you say, if you don't get off your couch, then the Tea Party, we're going to have the Tea Party Congress. And that does motivate some people in the Democratic base. But overall, I think the Tea Party will be a plus for Republicans because in the midterms, it's all about getting your base out. And that the Tea Party is the Republican base, even though there are some negatives to the Tea Party.
Because I thought it would scare them most. Well, we've run out of time, Bob. Bob Cusack of the Hill Paper, thank you for being with me.
Thank you.
I'm Chuck Conconi, and this has been Focus Washington.